Sirens screamed through the night, cutting across the city like jagged glass. Shadows danced along graffiti-stained walls as Officer Daniels sprinted down the narrow alley, his boots pounding against wet asphalt. Behind him, Titan's low growl rumbled through the darkness, a sound that could freeze even the bravest officer in place. Titan lunged forward with terrifying speed, teeth bared, muscles coiled like a spring ready to snap. The suspect, a young man clutching a stolen backpack, glanced over his shoulder and stumbled. Titan was relentless. Each step of the dog's paws echoed off brick walls, a relentless drum of menace. Daniels tugged at the leash, shouting, "Titan! Stop! Control!" But the dog's focus was absolute. The criminal screamed as Titan's powerful jaws sank into his jacket, just short of tearing flesh. Daniels barely managed to restrain him, heart hammering, sweat stinging his eyes. The city itself seemed alive with tension. Neon signs flickered above 24-hour diners where late-night patrons sipped coffee, oblivious to the chaos just a block away. Cars honked, and on the sidewalks, a couple hurried past, glancing at Titan with a mixture of fear and fascination. In moments like these, Titan wasn't just a police dog. He was a living weapon, untouchable and unpredictable. Stories of his ferocity traveled faster than any police alert. Parents tugged their children across streets, whispering warnings. "Stay away from that dog. Don't even look at him." Office workers joked nervously in late-night bars, never daring to laugh too loudly. Titan had become a legend of fear, the kind of creature that loomed larger than life in news reports, social media clips, and hushed conversations. Daniels thought back to Titan's early days. Puppies usually carried innocence, but Titan had been different from the start. Aggressive from the first bite, unyielding to standard commands, he had torn through training exercises like a storm, leaving trainers bruised and wary. Every officer who tried to approach him learned quickly, respect the dog or get hurt. Titan's reputation was built on fear, discipline, and raw, untamed power. As Daniels pulled Titan to a halt, the alley ahead darkened. Titan's growl sharpened, vibrating through the air. The criminal, already bruised and trembling, froze in place. But Titan didn't move. His ears perked, eyes narrowing. Someone was in the shadows. The air thickened with anticipation. Even Daniels held his breath. Then Titan stopped completely. The growl faded into a tense, cautious silence. The dog's body stiffened, muscles trembling, as he stared into the darkness. Whatever had entered the alley was unlike anything he had faced before. And for the first time that night, even the fearsome Titan seemed uncertain. The sharp bark of a command echoed through Maplewood Park, and suddenly the morning calm shattered. Joggers veered off the path, clutching their shirts, while children's laughter turned to screams as Titan stormed past, his massive paws pounding against the soft dirt. Strollers overturned, parents scooped up toddlers, and the bright green grass became a blur of panic. The dog's presence wasn't just intimidating, it was a living warning that this park, usually safe, was no longer a place for ordinary life. Officer Daniels trudged through the chaos, clipboard in hand, his uniform damp with sweat. The phone in his pocket vibrated relentlessly. Complaints had been pouring in all week. Calls from worried parents, park officials, and teachers. Daniels' captain, had issued yet another stern warning. Control that dog, or face the consequences. But controlling Titan was easier said than done. Every leash tug, every shout, seemed only to ignite the dog's fury. The streets surrounding the park were alive with tension. Busy intersections rattled with honking horns as traffic slowed for frightened pedestrians. Schoolchildren, released for recess, clung to their teachers' hands, wide-eyed and trembling at the mere mention of Titan. In the cafes and corner shops lining the sidewalks, Neighbors whispered over steaming mugs of coffee. "Have you heard about him? Him?" A woman asked, her voice barely above a murmur. "He's more dangerous than the last storm that tore through here." Amid the fear and chaos, one small figure moved with a curious stillness. Lily, 8 years old with wide brown eyes and a shock of unruly hair, clutched a worn doll to her chest. Unlike everyone else, she didn't run. Her heart raced, yes, but not with fear. It was fascination. Everyone called Titan a monster, but Lily wondered, why was he always so angry? Why did he growl at shadows? And why did people seem to misunderstand him so completely? She crept along the edge of the playground, watching Titan from a safe distance. He was enormous, powerful, and unpredictable. Yet there was something in his stance, the way his tail twitched ever so slightly, that spoke of confusion rather than pure aggression. Lily crouched behind a swing, peering through the chains, imagining the dog not as a threat, but as a creature trapped in a world that scared him. Meanwhile, neighbors continued their whispered gossip, sharing stories of near misses and scratches, feeding the city's growing paranoia. The papers ran headlines: "Uncontrollable police dog terrorizes park." Rumors twisted Titan's image into that of a beast beyond redemption. Parents used him as a warning. Teachers reminded children to stay away, and the city collectively held its breath whenever his name was mentioned. And then Lily saw him. Titan, sitting alone in a shadowy corner of the park. A small squirrel darted across the ground, and Titan's growl rumbled softly, low and uncertain. Lily's pulse quickened. Something inside her told her that beneath the fury, beneath the fear, there was more. She took a careful step forward, her tiny shoes crunching on gravel. Titan's ears twitched, his eyes locked onto hers, sharp and wary. In that frozen moment, the entire park seemed to pause. The whispers, the fear, the chaos, they all faded. And for the first time, Lily and Titan faced each other not as predator and prey, but as two beings on the edge of understanding. The ball slipped from Lily's small hands before she could grab it. It bounced clumsily across the gravel path, rolling straight toward Titan. In an instant, the dog's body tensed like a coiled spring. His low growl deepened into a snarl, teeth glinting under the afternoon sun. Without warning, Titan lunged at the ball, paws thudding against the dirt, the force of him shaking the ground beneath Lily's feet. Lily froze, heart hammering in her chest. Every instinct screamed to run, but she stayed rooted to the spot. Slowly, trembling but resolute, she dropped to her knees, lowering herself to Titan's level. "Titan, it's okay," she whispered, her voice soft but steady, her tiny hands extended, palms open, offering no threat, just curiosity and calm. From the corner of the park, Officer Daniels sprinted toward her, adrenaline coursing through his veins. "Titan, stop!" he shouted, the leash straining against his grip. He had trained for countless scenarios like this, but something in the air made him pause. Titan froze mid-lunge, his snarling jaws hovering inches from the gravel. Then, almost imperceptibly, the dog tilted his head and sniffed Lily's outstretched hand. Daniel's mind raced, memories of Titan's early days flashing behind his eyes. The dog had been fierce from the start, sharp, reactive, and almost impossible to train. Puppies were supposed to be gentle and moldable, but Titan had been anything but. Harsh words, relentless drills, and punishment for every misstep had taught him that the world was dangerous, and people were threats. Fear had hardened into aggression, and aggression into legend. Few officers dared approach him without steel nerves and trembling hands. But now, something was different. Titan's growl softened into a rumble of curiosity. He sniffed Lily's sleeve, tilting his head as though weighing a new possibility. The ball lay forgotten a few feet away, abandoned by the girl who had no idea she was slowly breaking through the wall of instinct and fear that had defined him for years. Lily's eyes were wide but steady, filled with a mixture of awe and compassion. She whispered again, "It's okay, big guy. I won't hurt you." Each word carried warmth, patience, and a bravery that no one in the city seemed to possess. Titan's ears twitched, tail flicking slightly, as if he were unsure whether this small human was friend or foe. Daniel's grip on the leash tightened, yet he didn't pull. He couldn't explain it. This was the first time Titan had paused, listened, and seemed gentle, not obedient, not trained, just responsive. A spark of hope ignited in Daniel's chest, tentative and fragile. Could a child's innocence truly reach the heart of the city's most feared dog? Titan took another cautious step forward, sniffing Lily's hair, his massive nose brushing against the strands. Daniels held his breath, muscles taut, eyes locked on the tense tableau. Every second stretched, every heartbeat loud in the silence that had fallen over the park. And in that moment, everything hung in balance. Would Titan retreat into the fear and fury that had defined him? Or would he take the first step toward trust, toward something no one thought possible? Lily's small hand clutched a crumpled paper bag as she stepped through the police station doors, her mother close behind. Inside, the air smelled of disinfectant and leather harnesses, the faint echo of barking dogs reverberating off the walls. Lily's heart pounded, not with fear this time, but with determination. She had promised herself she would see Titan again. "Are you sure about this?" her mother whispered, hesitating near the doorway. "He's dangerous," Lily nodded, holding the bag higher. "I just want to help him." Officer Daniels met them in the hallway, his expression tight with concern. "I don't know if this is a good idea," he murmured, glancing toward the training yard where Titan lay coiled, ears flicking. But something in Lily's calm courage reminded him of the day in the park. With a reluctant sigh, he led her forward. "All right, but stay slow. No sudden moves." Titan lifted his massive head as Lily approached, the dog's dark eyes assessing her. She knelt carefully on the concrete floor, placing the small blanket before her and scattering treats in tiny piles. Titan hesitated, body tense, but he didn't growl. He sniffed the blanket cautiously, his nose twitching as he stepped closer. Every inch forward was a victory, every hesitant paw a spark of hope. Other officers and trainers watched from a distance, arms crossed, brows furrowed. "This kid thinks she can train him?" one muttered under his breath. "That dog's broken. No child can tame him." Their skepticism pressed against Lily like a heavy weight, but she ignored it, her attention fixed entirely on Titan. She spoke softly, her voice gentle and steady. "Here, big guy, you can have this. It's just for you." A treat rolled along the floor, and Titan's massive head followed it, the growl in his throat fading to a low, rumbling curiosity. Slowly, he nudged a paw toward the blanket, sniffed at her outstretched hand, and even let her fingers brush his coarse fur. Step by step, Titan began to respond. He followed her hand without snapping, his massive body moving in cautious rhythm with hers. The tiny victories built upon one another. A wag of the tail here, a soft sniff there. Daniels felt his chest tighten, a fragile hope blooming inside him. Could this little girl, this improbable spark of kindness, truly reach him where others had failed? The station remained tense. Titan's ears flicked toward every sound, muscles coiled for instant action. But Lily continued patiently, scattering treats, murmuring encouragements, and speaking as if she understood him better than anyone ever had. Then, suddenly, a loud crash echoed from the far side of the training yard. Metal clanged and a crate toppled over. Titan stiffened instantly, hackles rising, eyes blazing. A fierce growl ripped from his throat, powerful and threatening. Lily froze just a few steps from him. Her small frame quivered, but her gaze stayed steady on his. Titan's body pivoted toward the source of danger, massive paws scrabbling for purchase on the concrete. And in that heartbeat, everything teetered on the edge. Would Titan lash out, returning to the fear and aggression that had defined him for years? Or would he remain, just barely, tethered to the fragile trust Lily had begun to weave? The station held its breath. Chaos erupted outside the First National Bank as the alarms blared, glass shards scattering across the sidewalk. A man bolted through the revolving doors, clutching a bag stuffed with cash, and the crowd screamed, scattering in every direction. Officer Daniels shouted into his radio, heart hammering, as Titan barreled forward like a freight train, teeth bared, muscles rippling with unstoppable force. Titan was pure motion, aggression incarnate. The dog lunged at the fleeing criminal, leash taut against Daniels's strained grip. Pedestrians dove for cover. Horns honked frantically, and the city streets turned into a battlefield of fear and urgency. Titan's growls echoed against brick walls and glass storefronts, a warning of the power he wielded and the danger he posed, if unchecked. Lily had been walking near the park, unaware of the bank incident until she heard the screams. Her heart pounded, but she didn't run. She edged closer, careful behind parked cars, her eyes locked on Titan. "Titan! Stop! Calm down!" she whispered, voice trembling but firm. Her small hands extended as if to reach him through the chaos. Every instinct screamed danger, yet she held her ground. For a moment, Titan faltered. Flashbacks pierced his mind. Lily kneeling in the park, her hands gentle, her voice soft, treats rolling toward him, a tiny blanket spread on the ground. Her patience, her bravery, the warmth of her presence, it all flickered in his memory like a fragile flame. His pause slowed, the lunge arrested mid-air. The criminal's desperate shouts filled the streets, but Titan's attention shifted, uncertain. Daniels's eyes widened. Around him, officers and bystanders froze in shock. The leash in his hands felt suddenly weightless, as Titan hesitated, staring off toward the girl whose courage had slowly cracked the walls of his fear. Every second stretched impossibly long. Would he snap back into aggression, risking public outrage and the criminal's escape? Or would he heed the trust forged by Lily's innocence and compassion? The streets seemed to hold their breath. Car horns faded into silence, screams became muted echoes, and the city itself seemed suspended in the tension of the moment. Titan's massive chest rose and fell, nostrils flaring, eyes locked on Lily's small, unwavering form. He tilted his head, sniffed the air, and pawed at the asphalt uncertainly. The criminal darted past, hoping for a chance to flee. Titan's instinct screamed, "Attack! Seize! Enforce!" But Lily's voice rang clear in his memory, soft and insistent. "It's okay. You don't have to hurt anyone." The dog froze again, tail stiff, ears pricked, muscles tense with the impossible choice before him. Officer Daniels tightened his grip, knowing this pause would be criticized by some as hesitation, even weakness. But he understood. This was bigger than a chase. This was a test of trust, a battle between learned fear and something purer, something fragile and human. Then, in a heartbeat that seemed to stretch into eternity, Titan dropped to a sitting position in the middle of the street. Silence fell over the chaos. His eyes locked directly on Lily, unwavering and intent. Pedestrians gasped. Officers froze. Even the fleeing criminal slowed, confusion flashing across his face. The city waited, holding its breath. Would Titan follow the instincts that had made him feared across the streets? Or would he protect the little girl who had begun to tame the storm inside him? The cameras flashed, capturing every frantic second as Titan stood rigid, massive body coiled, eyes locked on the trembling man sprawled on the pavement. Sirens wailing in the distance, the city seemed to hold its breath. watching this live spectacle unfold. Titan was the embodiment of fear itself, unyielding, uncontrollable, legendary in his aggression. Yet now, there was a new presence in the air. Lily, tiny and determined, stepping forward with calm resolve. The crowd fell silent as she walked toward him, her small hand outstretched, clutching the worn blanket she had brought countless times before. "Titan, it's me," she whispered, voice soft but steady, carrying across the chaos. The dog's ears twitched. His growl, low and threatening just moments ago, faded into an almost imperceptible rumble. For the first time in public, the feared canine recognized not danger, but familiarity, trust, and something resembling affection. The criminal struggled. Panic etched across his face, but Titan didn't lunge. He didn't snap. He followed Lily's steps with cautious eyes, tail stiff but not raised aggressively. Daniels moved closer, tense, hand on the leash, ready to intervene. But he didn't. He couldn't. Something extraordinary was happening. The dog, once untouchable, was responding to the courage and kindness of a little girl. Lily reached Titan and gently placed her hand on his massive head. She felt his coarse fur under her fingers, warmth radiating from his body, and the growl that had been the city's terror vanished completely. She whispered reassurances, soft words that carried no command, no threat, just understanding. Titan leaned slightly into her touch, eyes closing momentarily, as if surrendering to the calm she offered. Police officers quickly moved in to apprehend the criminal, who now sat frozen in disbelief. There were no bites, no struggle, only Titan, obedient in his own way, protecting but not attacking. The crowd erupted in astonishment. Would Titan respond the same way? Or was this connection fragile, unique to the little girl who had tamed the storm within him? The city watched, silent and expectant, as the next chapter of Titan's story waited to be written. Sunlight filtered through the trees of Maplewood Park, casting warm, golden rays across the playground. Laughter rang out, not the panicked shrieks of fear, but the joyful squeals of children running freely. Titan, once the shadow of terror in the city streets, trotted calmly beside Lily, his massive paws soft on the grass, ears perked but relaxed. Today he wasn't a weapon. He was a friend. Children approached him cautiously at first, hesitating a step or two away. But Titan lowered his head, sniffing their outstretched hands, tail wagging slowly in invitation. Tiny fingers patted his broad shoulders, and a ripple of delight spread through the park. Parents watched in amazement, smiling as the legendary K9, once feared across the city, nuzzled into the innocent affection of the very people he had once frightened. Officer Daniels leaned against a nearby bench, clipboard in hand but a rare smile on his face. He had begun visiting local schools, sharing Titan's story, a tale of patience, trust, and compassion overcoming fear. "It's more than a dog," he told a classroom of wide-eyed students. "It's about understanding. Even the strongest, scariest creature can change when met with kindness." Lily, her hair tousled by the breeze, laughed as Titan gently nudged a toy ball toward her. Every day she visited the station or the park, her bond with the dog growing stronger. They shared quiet moments under the shade of a large oak, Lily reading aloud from her favorite books, while Titan lay beside her, alert but serene. It was a companionship built on trust, one forged in moments of fear, but solidified through patience and love. The city, once tense and wary of the dog, now embraced him as a symbol of courage and redemption. Neighbors waved as they passed, children ran to greet him, and news outlets highlighted the story as a shining example of transformation. Titan had become more than a police dog. He was a lesson written in fur and heartbeat. Fear, they learned, could be overcome. Misunderstanding could be healed, and even the most dangerous could be touched by gentle care. On a quiet afternoon, Lily tossed her ball across the grassy field. Titan bounded after it, catching it midair and trotting back to her. But instead of tossing it forcefully, he dropped it carefully at her feet, tail wagging in a slow, rhythmic pattern that radiated happiness. Lily knelt and hugged him, her laughter echoing across the park, mixing with the joyful shouts of other children. As they played, Daniels watched from a distance, pride swelling in his chest. The transformation was complete. Titan, the dog who had once terrorized a city, was now a friend, a protector, and an ambassador of hope. In the hands of a little girl, patience and trust had turned fear into love. A young boy from the neighborhood approached timidly, inspired by Lily's courage. Titan lowered his head, sniffing the child's small hand, tail wagging in welcome. The circle of compassion expanded, and the park buzzed with possibility, laughter, and the quiet understanding that kindness could ripple endlessly. True strength, Daniels realized, had never been in Titan's teeth or muscle. It had always been in the gentle heart that had met aggression with trust. And that, he knew, was the story worth sharing. If this story touched your heart, remember, compassion can heal even the fiercest hearts. Share it, inspire hope, and let kindness guide your world. Titan wagged his tail, ball in mouth, and Lily's laughter rang out. A city once afraid, now alive with joy and trust.